4 critical, fatal mistakes that you must avoid in the early days. And look, man, I know it's scary. I know it hurts. I know you're worried about your kids and your future and your finances. And what I want to do is I want to give you extreme encouragement that if you will avoid these 4 fatal mistakes, that you can put your marriage back on a path and a trajectory of reconciliation, bliss, and happiness. Number 1 is not acting like a man. Look, brother, I know you feel desperation. I know you feel panicked. I know you feel angry, and I know you feel hurt. And inside of that space, you must recognize that the true man is able to deal with those feelings and present a strong and confident and loving face and front for his wife. You got to overcome your desperation. You've got to find a way to do that, man. You've got to accept the reality that this is where your wife's head and heart are, and this is the direction that she is heading. And there's no amount of begging or whining or pleading or being angry that's going to fix it. So what you need to do is you need to think clearly, and you need to act like a man, not a monster with the blaming and shaming and defending and deflecting, and not a mama's boy with the begging and the pleading and the empty promises that are never going to get any better. First and foremost, man, you have got to make a decision that this marriage will work, will continue to work, and will continue to work better because you're going to learn how to do it God's way. And when you do marriage God's way, your marriage has a 100% chance of success. So when you get this wrong, what ends up happening is your wife just digs in her heels and feels justified in her decision and feels like her decision has been rational, and inside of that space, she doesn't need you. She's outgrown you. It's time to move on. Okay, now let's talk about mistake number 2. Mistake number 2 is that you're not acting like a leader. My brother, you got to understand your role in this marriage. You are the head of her. That's Ephesians 5. And there's not going to be a quick fix here, brother. You're not just going to be able to say a few magic words. Now, we have helped thousands of men to fix this problem in 6 to 8 weeks, but it's not an overnight fix, and it's not something you can just talk your way out of. But what I want you to know most importantly is do not use push or force behaviors. When you're trying to lead somebody and you're trying to get somebody to change their mindset, if you're pushing them into it, what's going to happen is they're going to dig in their heels and they're going to push back. Pushing is not going to work in this space. You need to lead with pull behaviors. These are powerful behaviors. What this means is making yourself as attractive as possible, making yourself this man who, where when she compares her future with any other man, that man looks like a distant second compared to you, brother. And if she compares her future alone without a man, that future is a distant second to a future with you, brother. And so inside of this space, man, you have got to understand you must not try to manipulate or use logic. You must lead with attraction. You must study attraction. You must understand how to become more attractive to your wife. And inside of that space, you will pull her to you like a magnet, not push her into a marriage that no longer works for her. Now let's talk about number 3. You fail to act like a husband. Look, man, there's only 3 reasons that women leave men. And it's all about how she feels. She doesn't feel liked. She doesn't feel loved. She doesn't feel respected. And respected can also be thought of as safe. For you to solve this problem, you have got to become an expert at understanding how she feels moment by moment in every interaction and get better at making her feel better. Better how? Better liked, better loved, better respected, and safe. If you can make your wife feel more loved, more liked, more respected, and safer in every interaction, you could turn this video off and you'd be done. It wouldn't happen overnight, but over a short period of weeks, everything would turn around. So what you've got to do here is understand where you're getting it wrong. And I'll give you some tips on this. What makes her feel unliked? It's if you don't like her. Look, man, inside of our brotherhood, we have a code where we live in the facts and we tell the truth about the facts and the feelings. And what I'm telling you is that in this moment, your wife is an irritation. If you're getting a divorce, man, it's an irritant. If you have somebody who doesn't like you anymore, she's an irritant. She's an aggravation. She's a disappointment. She's an impediment to everything that you want and plan for and hope in your life in this moment of time. And if you're honest with yourself, probably for a long time in tiny little pieces, as she rejected you for closeness and physical intimacy, as she criticized you, these feelings, they well up in you. And what ends up happening is they vomit on her and then she catches them because they're contagious and then she doesn't feel liked. So you got to work on yourself. This is Corinthians 10 and verse 5, man. Don't fight like the world. Capture every thought and make it obedient to Christ. And inside of that space, space, what you can find is that if you will capture every thought and make it obedient to Christ, that you will better be able to deal with your own feelings that are now being projected on her. And when you can transfer those feelings into gratitude and love and bliss and a feeling that you want her to feel safe and want her to feel respected and want her to feel liked and want her to feel loved, well, then those things will begin to happen inside of her. The guy who gets this wrong, he does it all backwards, and he just lets these feelings that he has just simmer inside of him. He shoves them down, he represses them, he denies them, he dates them, he lies about them, he tries to hide them, but she knows, brother. She knows. And that's what's going to make the difference here. So act like a husband, because when you get it right, it will pull her to you with power. Now let's talk about number 4. You got to act like a king. And what I mean by that is inside of your kingdom, there is business. There is the business of the children. There is the business of the finances. If you own a business with her, there is the business of the business. There are things that matter about the kingdom. And as long as she is still under that roof, or as long as she is still part of this union, as long as she is part of this marriage, as long as she is part of this relationship, if she has children with you, then for the rest of her life, there are things about you that intersect your life that matter to her. And these are the things I want you to focus on. These are the things I want you to talk to her about. You can talk to her about the bills. You can talk to her about your business. You can talk to her about your finances. You can talk to her about the kids. You can talk to her about being great co-parents and figuring out how to make this easier on the kids. You can be a strong, calm, gentle, but never a doormat man. Strong, calm, certain, gentle, but never a doormat man. Inside of that space, you will start to rebuild attraction. And what this does for you, man, is it gives you the ability to showcase these things that I'm teaching you in future conversations. Don't go back to her and say, can we talk about the marriage? Don't go back to her and say, I'm sorry, I was a loser. I completely destroyed our marriage. There may be a time for that. There may not. It's why it's better to have a coach to understand the circumstances and the context. But what I'm going to tell you is if you overdo that stuff, then all you're going to do is talk her out of you. But you have this opportunity to talk to her about your kids and your money and your house and your finances and what life looks like after the divorce and how things could be split equitably. Just because you're talking about that stuff does not mean that you just go tell her, yeah, I want a divorce too. You can absolutely tell her, look, this divorce is absolutely not what I want. And I'm going to do everything I can to show you that I like you and love you and respect you. And I'm going to be a better man for you. And inside of that space, if that's not where your head and your heart and your mind and your soul feel like you're being led, then I respect that. And I can let you go with grace and dignity. By the way, we're going to have to talk about our business. We're going to have to talk about our finances. We're going to have to talk about our kids. We're going to have to talk about what this future looks like. And now all of a sudden, she's completely not on guard. She's been told that you're okay with the direction she's moving, even though it's not what you want. And yet you have these other things to talk about. Well, now she doesn't want to keep hammering on you that she wants a divorce because you're not fighting it. And now inside of this space, you're using these conversations to show her that you can be a better, stronger, kinder, gentler man with more confidence and more certainty, who makes her feel more loved and more liked and more respected. And inside of that space, remind her that the two of you can be good together, because having done the internal work that I talked about to get rid of those negative feelings and replace them with good feelings, then you're in a place where you can begin to slowly escalate flirtation, slowly escalate some game, start to tell her some jokes, start to be in a good mood, start to be funny and charming and entertaining, and remind her that the two of you can be good together. And if you want to understand how to do this at a much deeper level, then go to www.realmanrevolution.com, and I'll see you on the other side.